Hello, welcome or welcome back. In today's lesson we will continue with the theme we already started in the previous videos about the hip joints. Today we will need a lot of space, a lot of floor space, so please make sure you don't bump into chairs or tables, and our focus will be on proprioception and counterbalance. Proprioception, the meaning is where do you feel are your limbs in space, where is your hand, in which orientation, where is the other hand, and all the things in relation to each other, where do you look at, without looking at the limbs, but feeling, with your thinking, with your memory, and how you recall where was the last position and where is the new position, and how you really sense the floor and yourself and maybe the clothes. That's proprioception. And counterbalance, like how you can use your arm to move a leg or how the legs influence the upper body. So today is all about sensation and feeling sensational, yes, and a lot of floor space, and we will have two big movements. And the first movement, the lesson starts on the front side, so please come to lie on your belly. So take your time to arrive on the floor, on your belly, with the legs extended and the head turned to the right, and your right hand standing with your right elbow towards the ceiling, and your left hand standing with your left elbow towards the ceiling. And you might want to pause here and ease into this starting position. Maybe it takes 20 minutes, maybe it takes several approaches to ease into this being on your front side until you achieve your intention or my instruction without feeling stressed. Yes, you ease into this position. So you don't have the feeling you're forcing yourself to hold your right hand in that position, or your left hand in that position, and how much do you have to bring your head to the right, like move your head to the right in order to be able to put your left cheek on the floor or your left ear comfortably. How much of a side bending do you have? How much do you have to draw up your right knee? You ease into this starting position. And to give you the instruction, the intention is to move your left knee towards your right hand and your nose or your chin or your face towards your left knee. So your left knee towards your right hand, and your head comes to meet your left knee. And when you ease into this movement, easing function, slowly a little bit faster, maybe slow again, and you go back and forth, to and fro, and eventually this movement, if you push through your arms in the right moment, will bring you up to sitting. So that's our movement, to come from lying on your front side to sitting. But what are the details? How do you have to move in detail? How do you have to ease into the movement so that the movement is, allow yourself, or allow the movement to happen to you. The movement is happening to you. How do you achieve such a mindset, such a state that this instruction you just heard, this intention, the thing you want to do, translate into exercise of perception, of feeling, of movement? your left knee towards your right hand. The left knee towards your right hand, closer and further away. And where do you have to place your left hand to support the movement? When do you have to curl? When do you have to bring your nose closer to your left knee? What do you have to do with your right leg? When do you have to draw up your right knee, and when do you have to push down your right knee? And what is this sitting position you eventually will assume or present, or the position that will present itself? And do you move your right leg first or your left one, or do you push with your hand first? What's the first movement in this quite complex movement? How close do you bring your head towards your left knee? Where do you stand your hands? How much do you lean over? Where are your things? Where is your right foot? Where does your right foot come to rest? Your left one. Is your left foot in front of your right knee? How much do you bend your left hip joint, your left knee? How do you help with your feet? With your hands, which orientation are your fingers? Do you point your fingers to the left or to the right? And you have it in you. You don't need the instruction. The whole instruction is the intention to come from lying on your front side to sitting. So I tell you it is possible, but what are the details? What do you have to do? And you're made for this. Like your nervous system is made to explore a movement like this. This is what you, like a car is for driving and a plane is for flying, and you are made for discovering and learning movements and improving your movement quality. Yes? So continue to explore this. And if you want, also to the other side. So you will start with your head turned to the left, and you will draw up your right knee to your left hand. So let's take a little bit of time to explore this to both sides. However, we are just at the beginning of the lesson, or maybe the first third of the lesson, and let's move to the second part, to the second big movement. So the next time you're in sitting, please come to sit on the floor with your legs extended and lean a bit on your arms behind you. And then bring both feet to stand so that the knees point toward the ceiling. So your feet are standing and the knees are up. So that's the starting position of our second big movement. And the movement itself is to tilt the legs. So let's start to the right side again, to tilt the right knee to the right, and at some point also the left one. And maybe 10 years ago this was a quite strange movement, but nowadays there's like literally tens of thousands of YouTube videos that have this particular movement. So if you have seen that before, you might be biased. How can you explore a movement you have seen or done before afresh? And I have a couple of videos just to improve side sitting and turning in side sitting, but not going back to these videos at this moment. How can you feel? How can you perceive where is the movement in your hip joint, in your right hip joint, and then your left hip joint? And the focus here is on ease. How can you make it easier? So that's the big difference to the fitness channels. How can you use your brain, your perception, your feeling, your proprioception? You feel you're leaning on your right hand. When does the left hand lift off? When do you have to come up into a slight extension and become long? The upper body long. When does your left hip joint or the left buttocks leave the floor? Where do you place your left leg? Is your left foot long on the floor behind you or to the side? So keep in mind that you're perfect, you're perfectly built through millions of years of evolutions and through your parents and grandparents and grandparents, the whole lineage up, a lineage up of movers, of hunters and gatherers maybe, and our skeleton and nervous system is perfect to explore this kind of movement and to make it highly efficient. So whenever you feel there's strain or it's difficult, then you're on the wrong woodway, on the wrong pathway through the forest. It should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Easy. So can you place your right, can you end up in a position where your left knee is close to the sole of your right foot and where you maybe even be able to sit hands-free upright, to be able to scan the environment, to be able to talk with or to someone. And then you move back and maybe this time, so we do one side first so we can explore the details of one side and really dive into one side, but then also the other to the left. So the left knee tilts to the left. How far? When does the right knee have to follow? To where? How much of a lengthening, of a twist, of a side bending? How much of a leaning? When does your right hand leave the floor? If it does at all, where do you put your right foot? And we have a lot of space, so you don't have to keep your exact position, but you can adjust ad libitum to your needs. Adjust your movements, adjust your space to your needs. Do you move your eyes first? When does your head turn? Do you look up? Do you look down? Do you come forwards? Or is it nicer to be leaning really backwards, but then your head sinks in between your shoulders, so that might not be too nice. When do you sit on your sit bones? When do you sit on your greater trochanter? When do you sit more towards your knees or more towards your back? How can you make yourself or allow yourself, invite yourself to enjoy the movement? How do you have to move? How do you have to touch your surroundings, yourself? Do you have to touch the air in order to feel good, to feel nice, to feel like, oh, that's a nice movement. That's something I can explore. That's actually something I can do to some extent. Doesn't feel too bad, does it? To flop the knees from one side to the other. And through this ease, we become more and more proficient. Who would have thought that we can get better if we enjoy doing something? So, 2 big movements, from on the belly to side sitting. How do we combine these 2 movements? So the next time you're in side sitting, for example, you sit with your legs to the right, your right knee, your right lower leg in front of you, your left leg behind you, and then come back to lying on your belly like we had in the first movement. So can you remember where you had to place your hands and your head to your knee, your head to your right knee in this case, and then you distance your right knee until you're on your belly. And up again. So we combine these movements, then you can flop your legs over to the other side, slowly. So it's not a sports event, it's an event of proprioception, counterbalance, feeling, making yourself feel nice. That's a nice movement. Oh, that's a nice leg. Oh, this leg can bend. That's a surprise. I didn't know this leg can bend like this, but obviously it can. Beautiful. And use the space you have got on the floor and keep in mind the 2 positions. On the front side, and drawing your knee up until you're inside sitting. And then you might discover there's really a lot of possibilities with these 2 movements. There's so many pathways emerging, so many directions we could take this lesson. How much do you come forwards? You could even come up to standing, but let's explore these transitions from the front side to side sitting, what is the ideal pathway, and only you can feel that, what is easy and nice and agreeable, and it's creative. Path of least resistance and effort, and maybe that's at the moment the most ideal one. And where do you still have effort that you don't need? Where do you have corners and edges you can just wipe away? And pauses are also a part of this method and a part of this way of exploring. So sometimes you can take a break, just rest for a minute. I mean, we're still humans. This is nothing extraordinary special. We are learning, and sometimes you need a break, and then when you start afresh, the movement is just there. That's the unconscious part of learning. Something happens inside of us, we don't know what it is, but after a short break, we don't think of it, suddenly we're able to do it. Or be able to do it much better. So, for example, every time you come to sit, you might notice that you can sit a little bit better. It's a little bit more available. The ideal posture. But of course, we're not just concerned about the posture, but how we get there, how we learn, how we feel, how do you perceive where your parts are, and how the tilting of your head at the right moment is helping your legs to extend or to bend, how all your parts play together. So I think this is a lesson worth coming back to once in a while and multiple times, because there's always something new to discover. Also, voice out what you discover, how you feel. Maybe you want to write it down or just talk to yourself. What did you discover? What did improve? Focus on what improved and which part you felt good. So focus on the positives, positive enforced learning, positive feedback. Just feel how you're sitting now. How has your ability to sit and to feel and use your hip joints, your legs, your counterbalance and proprioception, how did so many parts of you improve in just a little bit of rolling and sitting up? And actually it feels refreshed, doesn't it? So it's not a very tiring routine, it's more like a little refreshment. So the last thing we have to do in a lesson is to come up, to stand, to face the world in standing, a human quality, and see how it is in standing. Yes? Does that feel nice as well? Do you have the feeling you do have hip joints somewhere deep inside you, and they support you? They're there for you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. It was my pleasure to present you this little sequence of 2 movements. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next video.